think for people on the stands or at home, a very funny game, interesting game to see. Not really the matches that coaches really like, but I think there are circumstances that are completely understandable in terms of the game we saw. I think today we could have done a really statement in terms of result. But for that to happen, we should not concede the goals in simple situations that we conceded. We had to handle that defense in a better way. Anyway, I would like to remember everybody that this team of Siwelele recently won to Kaizer Chiefs 2-0 and drew in Orlando Stadium with Orlando Pirates. So it's a team that knows how to score goals in quick attacks. And obviously, when you have a team like us that gets the excitement of seeing goals appearing one after the other and goes up and puts obviously a lot of players in attack trying to score more goals, there's obviously that the balance of the team was not the best in some moments, and we had to pay that price. So the game became too much open for a strong result without goals conceded. So I didn't really appreciate some of the things, but I understood the excitement of the boys and the commitment and the dedication and the intention and the passion they put it on the game. It's funny because 15 minutes, it's 2-0 and we score another goal that was not offside and that was clearly taken out. I don't understand very well some things because it's so easy to see that it's not an offside. And then after appears the goal against us. So there are moments in the games also that things happen that it's what it is. People are human and people make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. I probably make a lot of mistakes also. So at least it's what people say around. Well, pretty happy with the result in terms of victory. Important to continue to win our matches. There's another one to prepare on Tuesday already. And they understand obviously that there was a moment that I had to take players out. There was players that could be in risk of injuries if I would keep them on the pitch for long. Players that were struggling. Also the energy that was put it for a match played in less than 72 hours was obviously too much to handle a 90-minute match. So it was normal that then in the second half the match would have to be balanced in a different way. So management of players obviously had to come up as soon as they understood that was not possible to really make the result that we would like to, and that in a certain moment it looked like possible to happen.
You mentioned it's less than 72 hours.
Not 72. It's less,
You are right. It's
or less than 72.
less than 72.
And it's not the first; it's the second. Yeah, the second match in less than 72, and it will be a third one. And as you might understand, there's also a Champions League match that will be played on the fourth day after this sequence of 3 matches in 72 hours or near 72 hours. So there's obviously a lot of concern from my part, as you may imagine, a lot of concern and attempt to manage as the context, but we cannot give up. So on winning our matches, and we'll continue until the last minute of the TS Galaxy match that we're going to play to look for points, because those points are not only important to keep us on the fight for the championship, but also to state ourselves in one more of the best ever campaigns that Mamelodi Sundowns did on the championship. That is quite important also to notice. But let's wait for these 3 points and then we speak in the end.
Coach, was there a fear at any stage, particularly after the Chiefs game, that the impact of the sudden shift in the championship and the fact that Pirates now have it in their hands would have some sort of mental impact on the Champions League? Is that something that you worry about? I mean, today is perhaps tempered that because obviously the guys are feeling good after 7 goals. But...
Look, my worries come mostly from whatever can happen in the football game in South Africa nowadays, because it's unpredictable. I never know when I'm going to lose players. I never know when I'm going to get players injured. I never know when I'm going to get... there's a lot of things that can happen that we don't control, and that makes me really afraid. I think it was clear that a match of... because I heard the comments and the commentaries in general, so it's not me speaking. I just speak by what I read, written from all the sports commentators in the country, by yourselves, by the fans, by that the match was really horrible. It's the match that should stay in the dark side of the South African history. By the way that the game was taken to such a path that obviously for us that we have a championship to play to dispute and the Champions League final to dispute makes a coach worried, of course. It's clear you understood that we lost two players that usually are players that are regularly used on our lineup that are done, and we have some others that are playing. I know how they are playing. They are playing on the wires, and that management really is not easy to do. And I think we are doing miracles. We are doing really miracles on managing this team, on arriving where we are after a season that has so many stories to be told. But I'll leave those stories for another moment.
Coach, from Comparative. Coach, when the game starts in the way that it did and there's early goals, is that something perhaps you planned for and you anticipated could happen in such a game? Or it's one of those things where the game just went in its own direction and the team had to then adjust?
You know how many times I ask my players to score goals since 0 times. What I told them even was that, or we play the game the way we know, and probably we score goals, or we think about scoring goals. We'll not play the game we want, and probably will not score goals. Because today we won the first half, but we lost the second one. We lost 3-2 on the second half. It means that the way we play this, if you compare the first half to the second one, is completely different. So the goals appear because in the first half we were much more loyal to what we want, but still we put it extra intensity. Of course, I knew that there would be a drop, but I also expected that the players that would come could regulate the game towards the direction and eventually go for more. At halftime, I told them, you want this? I will not tell you not to go for it. Because it was clear that the boys wanted, after the goals appeared, that they wanted to go for more because they felt they could go for more. But I think a result like that could only happen if our defense would have the capacity to hold those attacks and not suffer goals. Because also the attack, in a certain moment, you start to feel that every time they go there or they go there where they score. So we are putting an effort that is, so there should be more balance between the things. But as I said, this team scored goals in counter-attack to Chiefs and scored goals in counter-attack to Pirates, scored goals in... It's a team that can really use spaces. So, and we exposed ourselves because there was a moment that I felt the boys were going because they wanted to try, and nothing to point on that. Obviously, for a coach, I like to end the matches and grab things and say, okay, we won 3-0 or 2-0, but we have there's something that we can show to ourselves that take us. And today the game was completely open at a certain moment. So. But I totally understand. I even praise the players for what they did. It's not easy after that second half with shifts, where we saw such investment from the players, so much energy in trying to turn the match around. And even then, with 10 players, how the character they showed in trying to still force that. And today, come back on the first and make a first half on this level. I can only praise my players. There's nothing. I cannot really. At halftime, I told them, guys. Because today I used the metaphor regarding how we should approach the match. And I told them at a certain point, I told, if you knew that nothing bad could happen, or if you knew that there was everything in the hands in this match, how you would play it. And because if you know that you could not fail, how you would play this game. And that was a provocation for them to give 100%. Because when you give 100%, even if you fail, you don't fail. You just gave yourself. You were not enough. So this was the provocation that I put it on the players. And then at halftime, I told them, guys, you are there. You are even more than I expected, considering the sequence of matches we bring. So if you want to continue, go for it. But I will not stop you. So that's why the result also happened, because I could have closed the game and finish it at a certain point. But even the substitutions I did was to manage. Obviously, we understood the players I took out. 3 of them, they are on the limit of yellow cards, and the one I left in the pitch got a yellow card. So, but I had Aubrey also struggling, and I decided to allow Mudau to stay, and he got a yellow card by an extra aggressivity on that level. I think he could have handled that situation. Of course, there was no need to. But anyway, there's a moment the coach also needs to relate with what's ahead, and we have day to recover tomorrow, day to pick energy, and immediately in the following day travel to play Galaxy. It's absolutely fantastic. Today there was a newspaper in Portugal that made a strong analysis on PSG, Bayern Munich, and PSG, Bayern Munich, and Arsenal. And they called me during the week, so the base of that work is done under the interview they did to me. So they use the example of our situation in South Africa to compare to the different stages where Arsenal, Bayern, and PSG are, because the calendar that those teams have is completely different. So Arsenal is much more loaded than the other two, because the league has managed the season in order to provide capacity for these teams to arrive in a different way. But there are many different ways to approach this kind of... Look, Porto was champion in Portugal last match, and the coach was praised by the work he did throughout the season, because arriving at 60, 65 minutes, he would change 2, 3, 4 players consistently, even sometimes still going for the result. Of course, that squad is quite balanced, and they have more than 2 players for each position in a top level, so they could do it. But it's true that they arrived in the end of the season much fresher than the other teams. So when everybody expected that Porto could not handle it, they overcame the difficulties and they were stronger than the opponents. And probably that's also the reason why in certain moments we had to protect our players, and probably why in the moment we don't have a score of goals scored like we had last year, because you remember last year we scored more than 100 goals throughout the season. But I think that last year we were capable to manage better, especially the end of the season, than this one. Yeah.
Coach, you touched on the yellow cards there. How much sort of worrying during the week did you do about playing, Tebogo? Obviously, Keegan didn't play this evening, but he's also on 3. Guliso, Nuno Santos, Brian. I mean, how hard was it to decide whether to include or exclude these guys, given, look at Mudau now having to miss the last game?
Look, the game where I was more worried about that was the Polokwane home game when we scored the second goal. So as soon as we scored the second goal, I started to shout to the guys that were on the limit to control their duels. Until then, no. With the shifts, I didn't worry about it at all. I allowed the game to flow. I never told any player to pay attention on anything. Today, in the first half, I also allowed them to go, because when you are winning the way we were in the beginning of the match, and you still, of course, you see that energy from the players, you cannot take that energy out and start shouting to them, hey, don't run on a duel, because you can get, there's no... but then during second half, as soon as I understood that there was the goal from Siwelele, and that the team was not showing the same energy, I understood now it's time to protect us, because we're not gonna arrive in such historical results. So there was a moment I felt, now it's time to take them out, because also, Nuno comes from a muscular injury. Keeping him on the pitch would be dramatic in terms of maybe getting injury. You remember when we played the Polokwane away, Tashrik didn't start the match because he was not really injured, but he was not comfortable, so it was a risk to put him even there at the 20 minutes he played there. So I had to take him out, and you know that Tashrik for us in the moment, considering the absences that we have, is an important key. Artur, for how long he don't play, and I don't want to speak about how he's playing, because I don't want to give weapon to other play or to the opponents, but he's not obviously in the best situation as we would like to. Even Brian comes from a situation where he stopped. So management of the team in this moment is very important. That's why it would be so important that we could rest until to make a full week of recovery to play the match, the Champions League match, the first one. So as far didn't win last match, well, it's curious because all the teams that played the semi-final of the Champions League struggled quite a lot in terms of sports results after this effort. It's Esperance, it's Asfar, it's well, we also drew 2 matches. So, but I would like really to be able to do what the coach there is doing, because last match he took out 6 or 7 players from the lineup, already managing considering the Champions League final. But we can't. We have to continue to give our best. How are we going to arrive on that moment? Let's see. Let's see how we're going to arrive. Let's see. Let's hope we're going to arrive with character. That is already important.
Take the last 2 questions. Coach has extensive answers. So,
Coach, I know you guys don't like to talk about individual players, but sometimes you can avoid it. I mean, how do you help someone like Ndamane who, sometimes gets caught quite badly? And looking at the last 2 matches, he's probably the only recognized centre back who's been playing regularly, which means you're going to rely heavily on him in the last match and the championship final.
Yeah, it's clear that he's tired. Very clear. He's not so reactive. He's not so agile. He's not so. He's tired. It's true. Anyway, he's the only left-footed center back we have. We decided to play him today again, but it's clear that he's tired, and fatigue is not only physical; it's also mental. The capacity to make a tactical decision, or the technical tactical decision, sometimes is delayed a little bit. For example, you saw today he missed a pass that gave the goal to the first goal. That he was late on the decision. He could have made it quicker, but that's probably also from fatigue that is accumulated. Yeah, it's something I have to take in consideration, considering what we have ahead. Let's see. Anyway, as you may imagine, we just lost Keanu. Motobi is not still able to play. Vala, and so we have Keegan. Yes, we have Keegan, and he's a player that we trust. So, and we have probably today. I wanted to give him game time. I confess, he was not starting the match, but I wanted to give him game time. He just didn't start because, as you know, Grant didn't play a few of them before, and Grant cannot play then in the Champions League because still he is under punishment. So suspension. But I had all the intention to put Keegan to play. I even told him prepare. But then I saw that Aubrey was struggling, and I understood that keeping Aubrey on the match probably would not only expose that left side. Unfortunately, we suffered a goal from. I think that the penalty is out of the box, that fall. I was looking in the TV. You can take a look on it. The fall starts out of the box. But anyway, it's really there on the line. So if we had VAR, the decision would be analyzed. Without, it's very difficult because I think it's really over the line of the box. But anyway, I was afraid to lose Aubrey. That's why I decided to put Divine in, not to lose Aubrey, because some of the players, they are on the wires. I know that they are on the wires, really.
Coach, I just want to ask you, were you given the option of playing the Galaxy game in between the 2 legs of the final? Would that have been a better solution for you, or you?
No, that would be absolutely impossible. With the travel to the north of Africa, how you can make it? It's absolutely impossible. We could do it if we had 2 teams, or one playing here, another one traveling to. It's absolutely impossible. Of course, that was the possibility that we were given. Even for you to understand, when we came from Esperance, we could not fly in the night because there was no slot to fly in the night. We had to fly in the morning, but we were told by the PSL that if we would fly in the night, we would have to play immediately after 2 days. So just for you to understand how we are the rules and how we are dealing with the reality here. But to speak about that, I think the best is when you have the chance to speak with Mr. Brasten or Dr. Yogesh or maybe Mr. Fleming. They can explain you all the details of the things that happen with the PSL. I'm not the best person because sometimes I just cannot. There's a moment I just make you very clear, understand that I was very objective on telling my club that on this sequence of 7 matches, we would lose a lot of players. I told that in several places and to several people, because if there's something I know is the physiology of the players. I've been also in my beginning of career a fitness coach. I know very well I'm a very experienced coach really managing these kind of things. And I already have almost, I don't know, maybe 18 matches in South Africa. So I know very well the reality, and I know my players. I know the players we have. Some of them with some history of So we know also the players, and we work all together with in terms of club, the different departments on the management of the players. So we know very well what can happen when we have a player that plays more or less, because there's a pattern that we can obviously throughout the years recognize on the players, so that we can also by the profile of a player manage them in the best way. But when you have a calendar, in some of them because you can, but you can change. Of course, I could change more. I could change more, but then I will have to deal with this adaptation. I had to deal with putting players on matches that we had to win that probably are not so strong as others, because change is one thing, but you can change, but you can change me and Shupin, but I'm Miguel and Shupin. So, well, it's what it is. In some moments you have margin to change, in others you have to go with, so that anyway, I think the players and ourselves in the club are doing quite well in managing the moment. Let's try to continue to do it, so that we can obviously make the end of the season in the way we want.